All right, more on Facebook.
Can I ask? I'm trying to copy the link and paste it somewhere so I could look at it later, but my computer's not letting me. It's stuck on whatever I last copied. Can you send the links out to everyone who is on this call later on? Is that okay?
Yeah.
Yeah, we can do that.
Thank you.
And I can talk for hours about fighting warehouses. So I'm going to do my best to keep it to 15 minutes. But what I will say is that I will promise to be available after November 7th for a continued conversation. And I'll make sure everybody knows how to get in touch with me, and I will. So I don't know why that particular link. I want to share that page as well as lots of other resources with anybody who wants them. So if you can, Tolani, in a follow-up email when you send out your presentation in mind.
Yes, I will do that. Any material, shared by me and any of the speakers, everyone, all attendees will have access to that.
Okay. And so let me know too if any part of what I'm saying is breaking up. I just saw a notice that my connection may be unstable. So does everything look okay for you guys? I'm not cutting out here and there. Good. Okay.
You sound fine. Yeah.
Great.
All right, everybody. I'm just going to ask you, if you are not already muted, to mute yourself, and we are about to get started. I am going to share my screen because there is a presentation that I have for this training. And the link to this presentation is also in the chat for you to view if you want to follow along or go back to some slides. So it's also in the chat. All right, and then let me start sharing. Okay. Can everyone see my screen?
Yes.
Okay. All right. All right. So first off, thank you everybody for coming, for participating in this training today. It will be focused on using the power of the election season to fight New Jersey warehouses. I'm going to be your host, and we have some wonderful speakers, 2 speakers in this training today that also has lots of information and resources for you to use. Sorry. Okay, so let's get started. So if you haven't already done so, I want to start off with some introductions. So please, all participants, just state your name and what town or city in New Jersey you're coming from or that you're representing. As for me, for those who don't know who I am, my name is Tolani Taylor, and I am the Zero Emissions and Warehouse Organizer for Clean Water Action here in New Jersey. And I am focused on working with various local community groups around New Jersey who are fighting warehouse projects. In addition to saw a lag there. Sorry. In addition to advocating for stronger and state-mandated laws and policies be made to properly regulate the warehouse industry. Okay. All right. Purpose of the training. So yeah, I really just wanted to make this training as straightforward and easy to follow along as possible. But before I get into that, I'll explain why you should be attending this training, what you can get out of it. Number one, it's to empower New Jersey voters like yourself to be more active within your local government, especially your local government when it comes to this issue, to really help contribute to slowing down the growth of warehouse development that we are seeing right before our eyes on a weekly basis. Um, to to understand the connection between what someone at the local government level in your city or town, what their role is in essentially either accepting or rejecting warehouse development or making decisions on, land use matters, right, within your town or city. And lastly, to provide you with the most effective and impactful strategies that you can use to hold your public officials accountable. Um, because there's some that are really concerned, like this is a cause of concern for them, and there's some, not so much. And I think it's just very important right now in this moment in time to make sure we have public officials that are supposed to be serving us and representing our essentially needs and wants within our community. They have to be reflective of that, in addition to being mindful for the environment. And clearly warehouse development, too much of it, poses a very big risk to the environment, to people's health, and their well-being. Structure of the training, okay? 4 topics will be covered, and the speakers that are a part of this training today will elaborate on a little bit, of each topic, providing their own experience, their own perspective on some of these topics, which are related to warehouse development. In between each topic, there'll be like a little quick quiz session. It'll allow you to answer some questions, based on the information that was presented beforehand. And then obviously the guest speakers will, say their piece, and you'll have time to ask them questions as well. Please feel free to post your questions in the chat, whether you're streaming it live on Facebook right now or you're right here in the Zoom. And these are the guest speakers, and we're actually going to start off with Stacy Fox, Executive Director of Mercer County Defense League. I'm going to go through my presentation that I prepared for this training, and then we'll end with Jill Quinn, and I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing your name, the organizing coordinator for Center for Community Action and Environmental Justice from California. Okay. All right. So first topic, make the most out of public meetings. This is just a little intro. And after this intro, I'm going to pass it on to Stacy. Okay. So why is this important to attend public meetings and be a part of it? Well, it gives you the opportunity to bring up concerns within your town, within your community, and, essentially is the starting point for action, to be made, whether it's, and it could be a variety of things. Maybe it's a certain type of business you need in that town, or, in this case, warehouse development. So it's important to voice those concerns, those problems, or things that maybe our local government leaders can't see or don't understand. and allows them to have that and take into consideration as a resident, your perspective on the matter. Examples of this are township committee meetings, planning board meetings, town council meetings, Senate committee meetings, and county committee meetings. Free to the public. And you usually have about like 3 minutes to speak maximum. So making your points as concise as possible is very important. And how does this connect with warehouse development? Lastly, well, once a warehouse developer submits their application to your town or city's planning board, it's that planning board's responsibility to review over that application and take into consideration, some of the concerns from the community. So at planning board meetings, they essentially take a vote if they want the warehouse development or not. And you, as the public, can decide on or can voice your concerns essentially. Sorry, there's a little typo there. So with that, I'm gonna pass it on to Stacy. So let me stop sharing.
Thank you, Tolani.
Oops, sorry.
I think you need to enable my sharing.
Yeah, let me make you the co-host.
Or you could just also enable others to share.
Okay.
Do you want me to talk you through that?
See, I made you a co-host because that allows you to share your screen. So do you see?
Okay. Yeah, I selected that multiple people can share.
Okay.
So, I'm going to share then. I don't want you to feel like I'm rushing through, but I want to respect everybody's time. So just know that our conversation will continue. Can everybody see this? This is my contact information.
Yes.
And I could go back to the first slide afterwards. I wanted to just introduce myself. So why am I here? I have something to share. I don't know the most, I don't know the least, but I have some important experience I want to share with you all. I'm the executive director of the Mercer County Defense League, which exists for the sole purpose of stopping warehouse sprawl in Mercer County. It was born of necessity, and I was already an environmentalist, but this was a calling that I just couldn't deny. And protecting the county wasn't big enough because we made it into the news and I started getting calls from other communities looking for guidance. And I myself did the same thing. And I found Tracy Heisler of Skylands Preservation Alliance, who's fought and won warehouses for years. And together we co-founded the Green Garden State Alliance with the idea of protecting all of New Jersey just by sharing information. So if you would all look for the private Facebook group, we would love to have you, because I recall a time when I had only 3 months experience and already I had learned enough to impart on a brand new warehouse warrior, and I was able to help them out with my experience, however short it was. Everybody's experience is going to be a little different because the land that they're trying to protect is a little bit different. So most folks, no matter where you are in your warehouse battle, you're going to have something to offer. So please join the Green Garden State Alliance. And Tracy Heisler is the most seasoned person that I know. She's always on there giving advice. Also the Garden State Alliance at gmail.com. We took off the green because it was very long. You can always reach us that way. It's probably quicker to go through the Facebook group. And if you post somebody who is currently fighting or has already fought and won, will see your post and hopefully chime in. And the alliances that we form are going to be invaluable. She has connected me with a winning attorney. Our trial date is set for November 15th, and we're looking really good. And her information was priceless. She also has a white paper that I'm going to send to you. Tolani will send to you in a follow-up email, which has got a lot more good stuff on it. And Yeah, so we'll just meet there and we'll have a continued conversation. So don't feel like what I try to give you in the next 15 minutes is going to be the end of it, because it's absolutely not. So what Tolani asked me to go over today was these subjects that she mentioned. So getting the most out of public meetings. So drawing a large crowd is super important. And you already know the ways that you might do that through social media and through knocking on doors. I know it seems counterintuitive to the purpose, but I needed signs fast, and I actually ordered blank lawn signs from Amazon, I confess. And I printed out my own printer paper and made giant words, cut them, paste them to the lawn signs, and I used packing tape. And some of those lawn signs a year later are still intact. So if you want to get signs up the next day and you want to harvest that energy, then do it. Get your blank signs overnight while you're waiting for a printer to print some regular ones. I, real quick basic setup, went off to the county and registered as a nonprofit. That is not an incorporation. It's an inexpensive thing to do. But if you register as a nonprofit, you're legally able to take money and you can raise funds. Set up a PayPal, tie it to your account, and keep a paper trail. When you're ready to get another little, you can find, I use Bluevine. They have a no fee online checking account. So we set up a Bluevine account and PayPal went to that, and then the GoFundMe, and it snowballs from there. So you can't do anything without a large crowd, because the large crowd is going to get the word out, going to put the signs out, going to collect the money. So that's key. So Tolani mentioned that you're probably only going to have 3 minutes to speak at public meetings. That's true for West Windsor Township, where I live. It's also true that they limited the whole public comment section to 15 minutes, which means only 5 people can get their 3 minutes. So it's really important that your group gather and fine tune what each person's going to say. And if it's anything like my battle, one person might focus solely on the traffic and the infrastructure. It's just not feasible that all of these trucks have no place to go in our communities. Somebody else might focus on health and safety and how diesel fumes are carcinogenic and cause all sorts of other developmental, mental health, COPD. There's a long list of health burdens that come from diesel fumes. And then there's, if you're going to increase traffic statistically on paper by X percentage, that same percentage is your increase in traffic accidents, and that same percentage is your increase in fatalities. So the next person can have that be the focus. Just make sure that you don't accidentally repeat yourself and lose precious time in front of the mic. Because after that 5th person gets their 3 minutes, or whatever your township's limitation is, you're done speaking. If that happens, ask the board to submit in writing follow-up comments so that all the comments can be made public record. And also any comments that you make, it's very important that you bring copies and hand them out to every board member to make sure that you're leaving your words behind and that they themselves don't have to wait to look back on the YouTube video to hear your comments again. So make sure you leave them all with a copy. That's important. For the meeting, also very homemade, I made signs. This was the very beginning when it was just me, then it was 3 people, then it was 7 people, then it was 10 people. I printed big bold signs just on 8.5 by 11 paper. And I bought a $20 lamination machine like every school classroom has. And I made signs like often 2 parts, no confidence, people over profits, things like that, no planet B. You come up with whatever's pertinent to your community and make lots of them. Because when you make that call to the people, come to the meeting, and they all show up, chances are they haven't had times to make signs, or they have just a blank piece of paper, they used a Sharpie, and nobody can read it. It has to be super bold, super legible, and 2-sided. I say 2-sided because in my case, there were reporters in the back and some people from our group taking pictures for social media, creating content. So you can have it 2-sided for 2 separate messages and occasionally flip it around, but it's very important that the planning board or the town council, whoever you're appealing to, can read your signs. Because in one case, I noticed some of them were like squinting. And one woman brought a sign that had like a paragraph on it. And I was like, no. And I just took her sign. I said, I'm sorry, here, take this. And I gave her a big, 2-word sign, no trucks. So if you have a stack of them, people will be very grateful to be walking into that meeting straight from work or from wherever, and they will be happy to take one of your signs, collect them all and use them for the next meeting. So that's really important. You can see some examples there written in the text. What are the other ones? No farms, no food, epic fail, and save the Garden State, stop the trucks. So take lots of pictures, and whatever you do, wherever you're out and about talking to people, get social media content, pictures with them, quotes from them. It's really important that you are always very active on social media and putting up posts with, you know, we were here, we spoke to this one, they said this, here's a comment, maybe a little video of what people are saying, and get that all into the public sphere. Because the folks at those public meetings, they're looking at Facebook. They're listening to what you do, all the noise that you make. So your quote unquote public meeting doesn't stop in that room. That puts you on their radar, and they see the magnitude of the group that you're forming. And then you go back next month or next week, whenever the meeting is and the group is growing, they are logging into your social media page and checking up on you. So keep building content because they're reading it. That's really important. And the last thing about being at those meetings is I found it very strengthening to all be in the same color. We started out all wearing blue, and then we went to printed Stop the Trucks t-shirts. And we got an amazing graphic of an 18-wheeler and a woman jogging, pushing a stroller in front of that 18-wheeler. And it's a very bold image. And it was on imprint.com. And the image was actually there separately, the truck and the stroller jogger lady. And I managed to put them together. So if you have a creative person, there's a lot of great tools in imprint.com. They were fast, their prices were good. You know, I'd recommend that company. There's no arrangement, but that's just who I used. So that's pretty much my experience with the public meetings, and then extending that public meeting beyond the meeting itself. So let me see if I can get to the next page.
We're seeing the screen as it's black. Are
You're
you
black?
sharing your? Yeah, we're not seeing your screen.
Well, that's true.
I can see your screen. Get
Yeah,
the
I
most
can see
out
it.
of public meetings.
Yeah.
Oh,
You
I
know,
don't know why I'm not seeing your screen. Or maybe it's on my end.
all right. So you can see meeting with or researching public officials.
Yes.
Okay. So building up to that point, first prepare yourself by giving your mission, your organization, and name. We went with stopthetrucks.info. It became our web address. Eventually we became, because we had to take on a legal battle and raise money, the Mercer County Defense League. And I gave myself a title, the executive director. And it was really important that I print business cards with all the contact information they could use, had our web address, email address, my phone number. But it's really important that you print something about your mission, who you are, what you're doing, because when you do run into officials on different levels, they meet people and take cards all day long. They will not remember who you are. You have to write, and I would just say print it, because you don't want to write it every time. You know, we are the anti-warehouse sprawl organization for this county, you know, and looking for your support. Whatever you know your mission is in giving out that card, print a little blurb on the card and just be ready everywhere you go, have it with you. And wear those t-shirts everywhere you go. I was like a walking billboard. I must have lived in that blue t-shirt, and it was summer, so my sun hat. So everywhere I go, people see my sun hat, my blue t-shirt. They're like, oh, stop the trucks. They don't know my name maybe, but they're like, yeah, stop the trucks. So you have to sort of like really live it, and it becomes contagious. So print the business cards, be ready to give them out, look professional, have the organization. Now, the research is really important. So you figure out who has the power to do what in government. And that could mean the mayor from the town next door if they're going to be impacted by what you're doing. And then it could mean people on the county level. It could mean the governor. In my case, the governor was a big part of the deal, because in like most cases, these warehouses are designed with flood maps of the past. And then you have the inland flood rule hanging over, and then the builder's lobby comes along and the mayor lets it, and the governor lets it go. So that really put a fire under us to get in touch with the governor. And we just kept pushing and pushing and pushing. We found a back door in. The first attempt to get to the governor was I signed up. I found out about ARP funds being designated, and the governor's executive team was willing to listen to people pitch where the ARP funding should be spent. So I thought, okay, open space is being gobbled up by warehouses because of COVID. Everybody had to have stuff delivered to their doors because they couldn't go shopping anymore in person. So thus the warehouse problem was born. And so I said that warrants ARPA funding because ARPA funding is response to COVID. So that was my justification. I got an opportunity to do my pitch. So because I got an opportunity to do my pitch, and we found out that we knew someone who knew someone, and we got in front of the governor's cabinet secretary. And so she had a meeting with us, and I got to do my pitch to her, and she agreed to follow up with us. And a couple of follow-ups later, I said, hey, you know, now that the inland flood rule is coming around the bend again, and then we really like to do a presentation and marry the two concepts of approving the inland flood rule and still advocating for ARP funding. She said yes, and miraculously, she invited 11 other people from the governor's cabinet to that meeting. So miracle of miracles. I had the great honor of presenting a PowerPoint for 30 minutes to 12 of the governor's cabinet. You know, sometimes it happens. Like the more you're out there talking to people and meeting people who know somebody, they put you in contact with the right people and you get a meeting. The more you try to go for a meeting, the more your chances are of getting one. So never stop trying, never stop meeting people, never stop, you know, trying to make connections, and you will get the meeting. And I got the meeting, and I'm sure that my group and my noise contributed. I don't think it, you know, certainly didn't do it by itself, but not long after our presentation, he went ahead and finally signed the inland flood protection rule, which lots of environmental organizations have been, you know, bludgeoning the state legislature to bring up to speed, and they finally did it. And so, so that's how we got on their radar. Now they know our names. So when we go to these different events, we now know all of these lawmakers and politicians by names, and it's really become an amazing thing. Same thing with press, but we'll get to that in the next slide. So on your website and social media, you have to tell the people who are following you and supporting you that they have to write to all of the offices of the people that you've discovered all have some amount of power. So you have to hit them on social media, write letters to the editor in the newspaper. You have to tweet at them, right? Don't bother with Threads yet. It's not quite the competitor to Twitter that we are hoping it might become, but call them out on Facebook, tag them. Nextdoor is a new up and coming app. I'm hearing a lot of good results from people using Nextdoor. And if Instagram is still a thing in your area, do that. The easy way to do this is to create a template. Write it once or give bullet points and tell everybody, here are all the email addresses, Twitter handles and whatnot. And these are the points we want you to make. Or write out an email, tell people to fill in your information and take it from there. And then hopefully you'll get the response that we did. We were able to inundate just all the local politicians' offices with cries from the people. And that worked out really well for us. The next point basically aligned with, I don't know why can't I get there it is. The squeaky wheel gets the oil. We all know this is true. So the DEP was another thing. Miraculously, we managed to sit in on the DEP reviewing the stormwater management plans for Bridgepoint 8 is the name of the development I'm fighting. So my whole team got invited to sit in on that, and we were able to bring professionals who were also able to chime in, and they let us speak, which means they were, I mean, the DEP, while they're not always easy to get what you want, and that's because they have to find whatever they find and fit it in the box of the law, you know, and if it doesn't, you know, there's not a lot that they can do, but if it does, then they're quite powerful. So they're really devoted environmentalists. They were really hoping that we could give them whatever it was that would help them deny this storm. It was called the Flood Hazard Area Permit. I believe with all my heart, they truly wanted to be able to deny it, but they couldn't get over that hump, and they went ahead and they issued that permit. They did not issue the wetlands permit. That's still being held up. So that also the flood hazard area is being challenged by a lawyer. So like hitting them legally is a whole other thing, and it's not part of this. We're going after them politically is the focus here. But showing up, like contact the DEP, they're going to let you in. They're good people. They want to hear the environmental side of things. So talk to them. And the county commissioners will listen. The county executive will listen. We got the county executive, Brian Hughes, to make a public statement to the newspaper that he was in opposition to the project. That was very helpful. The county commissioners came out against it. So another thing that I did is I joined my local Democratic club because that was the most active group, and our leaders in my particular county are mostly Democratic. There are a lot of Republican environmentalists who are very active in this too. It all depends on what is going on in your region. So my leaders are all on up the line, mostly Democratic, and they're very active against warehouses. I'm a Democrat. So I joined my club. I connected with the committee members, started going to the meetings. Before long, I met my assemblymen. They were showing up at the meetings. Senator Shirley Turner showed up at the meetings. Dan Benson, the future county executive, showed up at the meetings. And now these people are all on my cell phone, and we text about Bridgepoint 8. So the more you're involved, what's going on politically, the more access you're going to have to these people. And then the squeaky wheel will not only get oil, but it might also get dinner and a fun social event if you show up at all their fundraisers. So so when you request a meeting, so this is important. This is something that I really believe in. Tolani and I had a discussion about this the other day, is when you are going up to somebody that you don't know, you're going up to a politician or somebody you want to get their time. These folks are getting people asking for their time all the time. They would love for you to come up, just be honest, get right to the point, and respect their time. So have that card ready, and you go up to them and you think, I have 30 seconds, because lots of people want their time. And you can say, I'm so-and-so, and I'm fighting this in this region. And the reason why it's really important to you, because in your area, your constituents are going to be impacted. Here's my card. You really need to know about this. And, let's talk. I want to help. And before I give you your time back, do you have any questions for me? So then you stop and you give them a moment to say something. And usually they don't expect that. They think you're going to shake their hand, say your piece, and run away. But stop and ask that question to say, do you have any questions about what I've said? And they usually will ask you one, believe it or not. And then you have an opportunity to continue the conversation and take the temperature of that legislator. And sometimes they'll say, you know what, who else you need to talk to? You need to go talk to that person over there, so-and-so. And you go do that. So just be ready with the cards, be ready with your 30-second speech with the I respect your time. I just want to introduce myself and tell you why I want to talk to you. And this is why you need to follow up with me. It's important to your constituents. It should be important to you. And boom, that's it. And they'll believe you. If you're bold enough to go up to them and say, you need me, they're going to want to know why. So I made a note here that if your local board and council are not on your side, don't try to meet with them. I have heard of certain fights where the town council or the planning board are not interested in doing the deal, and they're just trying to find a legal way to not do it. I don't know how to fight that battle. That seems to me a better position to be in. I would say the opposition group might still need to get its own lawyer and not just rely on the planning board attorney, but to also get a backup with their own and see how they can partner together. Myself, I have experience with going up against our planning board and against our town council, who seem to be in favor of the warehouses that the people are not about. And the last thing about connecting with politicians is it's important to talk to the committee people about replacing incumbents that are pro-development. If they're more interested in developer profits than the people, then they need to go. And so you'll be pushing boulders uphill for the rest of your time in that community if you don't replace those people. And that's why I'm running for town council now, and I'm going to go to a council leadership meeting after this. I'm like double booked tonight, but I thought this was really important that we open this line of communication with each other. So using the press to your advantage, this is something we did, I think, fairly well. After the first reporter showed up and we got in contact with him, we were exchanging phone numbers, we were texting with each other, we realized that they're like hungry kittens. You give them a bowl of milk, they're going to keep coming back for more of the story, especially environmental journalists. They want these stories. They look to the people to give them the information. So do it. On our website, we have a page that lists all the environmental journalists. It also lists the DEP people, the politicians, everybody. But it's important that you also have that template to write to journalists, and you tell other people to write to journalists the same way, that they get your press releases as well, but tell them ahead of time when you're going to have a big event, when you think you're going to have a big turnout, and they might show up with TV cameras, and that's huge. And press releases, things of note, always let them know, and tell all of your local newspapers when you have a press release. And believe it or not, most oftentimes they will publish it, and they actually publish letters to the editor as well. So that's really important to encourage your people to do. And I think it might be over my 15 minutes, Tolani, because I could
yes,
yeah.
I have to. I'm gonna have to stop you here. I'm
That's
sorry.
okay. I know you're going to go into being a responsible voter. I don't need to do that. So I'll give that back to you. Do you want me? Am I allowed a few minutes of question and answer before I run off? Up to you.
Yes, just like 2 questions, and then I gotta move on to the
Okay.
next. So does anyone have any questions for Stacy? She can take 2 questions right now. Anybody?
Yes, hi, I have a question.
Okay, go ahead.
Hello to everyone that's on the line. My name is Maati from the Trenton Anti-Violence Coalition, and I completely support the work that you do. I wanted to know, are there any events coming up that, you know, there'll be a whole bunch of organizations together, environmental organizations? I went to one of your events last summer, and I just wanted to know, was there anything that you're doing coming up in the area, in the Mercer County area?
So let's stay in touch so I can always invite you when that comes up. So right now I'm hardcore campaigning until election day to try and get elected to town council. We are going to have that. Were you at the Green Garden State Alliance annual, the kickoff to the networking picnic? Were you at that, Maati? Oh, you're on mute. That was the event that you were at. And we're going to continue to do that. I see you're unmuted. Were you at that one?
Yes, that was the event. That was the event. It was a very nice event, and I was happy to network and meet people. And yeah, so I wanted to know if you're having any other events like that coming up over the winter and the fall.
Right. So right now that's not on the calendar. It's kind of going to depend on what happens with the election. But we're going to continue that event annually, but we might do some smaller cluster meetings because it's kind of time sensitive. You know, certain communities are going through some things they need more intervention before our annual meeting. So I'll stay in touch with you about that. I'll take your information from Tolani. I wrote your first name down, and Tolani, make sure you give me Mazi's number because we're close. We're like close enough to do lunch one of these days soon.
Okay, thank you so much. I appreciate that.
Thanks for the question.
All right. You know, I'm sorry, Stacy.
No, it's all good. I have to get to my meeting. So everybody, you know how to get in touch with me. Tolani, make sure they know how to get in touch with me. And I'm happy to continue to the conversation and connect other people with each other so that everyone can be resourceful in this fight.
Yes. So thank you, Stacy. And we're going to keep moving along, everyone. So I'm going to share my screen. All right, and can everybody see my screen? I'm just gonna pick up where I left off. Okay, great. I'm gonna pick up where we left off. I think I'm just gonna continue with the topics here just for the sake of time, because I do want to give our last speaker their time to speak. So I'm just gonna spend the next 10 minutes covering some material here before I pass it on to the next speaker. So meeting with legislators. as Stacy mentioned, right, in her presentation, public officials, at the local level, all the way to your state, legislators here in New Jersey. So your assemblymen, assemblywomen, senators, their job is to, serve their constituents. So a good way to prepare to do that is by one, making a call to your legislator's office, and seeing what their availability is, what the public official, the person you want to speak with, what their availability is, so you can properly talk about the issue that is affecting you, impacting your community, your family, and just try to strategize the solution, right? um, So it's very important to do your homework on the legislator, like who it is that you are meeting with. Maybe there's something you need clarified by them. And also to be educated on the problem, on your issue. Um, and prepare all of your material, whatever sources you want to share with that public official, so you can continue the dialogue, the communication, the relationship. Okay, what to do during your meeting? It's very important to make sure you have your facts, your data, intact, it's on point, so that it clearly, states your position right on the issue as much as possible. Um, that really does help in people, comprehending it, understanding your issue, and wanting to act, right, to make a difference, to make a change. Make your ask early, and basically that means just get to the point. Um, when it comes to meeting with your legislator, time is very precious. Um, don't lecture, have a conversation, like engage in a dialogue, because they are human too. Um, and you just have to be very, realistic and intentional when it comes to that. And also offer possible solutions. Don't expect your legislator to know every single thing, or like it's the back of their hand about this issue, because sometimes they're not coming from that point, and they don't have that understanding. So you just have to be, meet them where they are, and give them give them a reason to always come back to you as a resource when it comes to this issue. And that will definitely strengthen your relationship with that particular public official, and they can end up being a very consistent, champion for you when it comes to important environmental policies that should be passed. And then what to do after your meeting, which is serves as a follow up. Always exchange business cards, and write a note of maybe like the last thing you guys talked about or mentioned in your meeting. So it encourages you to, and also reminds you to follow up with this person, to let you know the conversation is still going on. Always thank them for their time, and also acknowledge, um, their contribution towards maybe voting a certain way on a particular law or bill that you are directly being impacted by. Always try to establish a next date, next time to meet, especially if some things were not covered during the meeting that you hoped to have covered. So sometimes that requires, right, an additional meeting. So always try to set up like another time to meet again. And then lastly, meeting with your mayor or town council. So uh, everything that I mentioned beforehand, I mean, you could apply it to meeting with your mayor or town council because they are, public officials too. I think the best way to maybe start off, especially if you've never done this before, is to look up the dates where mayor and town council meetings are happening right in your town or city in which you live, and make plans to attend. Make plans with those in your network to attend, and you know 9 times out of 10 you're there because there is an issue that you want to be addressed where you live. So just prepare your statement like before you maybe speak with the mayor or a town council member. Prepare a statement ahead of time, practice it, um and then once you're face to face, you present your problem and have the confidence in doing so. I think Stacy basically covered that. If you're, running into them, and not, the most formal events, and then good way to stay connected. You have events like this or in person, send them an invitation to it or invite them to be a speaker. Here are some pictures just with, again, public officials. So that's Cory Booker, obviously. We were in Washington, D.C. And then this is from a recent warehouse convening that I organized in Princeton, New Jersey. Some of you on this call attended. Assemblyman Dan Benson was a speaker at the convening. Just skip that. It's in the press. Again, I don't want to be too redundant because this is also something that Stacy covered. So I'm going to pass it on to Jo Quinn, which is our next speaker. Let me just stop sharing. Just give me one moment. I'm trying to find. Okay, Jo Quinn, I'm going to make you a co-host so you can share your screen. Do you see the little button, the share screen button?
Yeah, I think I'm good.
Okay, great.
Yeah, thank you, Tolani.
Uh-huh.
Hi, everyone. My name is Joaquin Castillejos, pronouns he, him. I am an organizing coordinator with the Center for Community Action and Environmental Justice. We're based here in the Inland Valley region of Southern California, known as the Inland Empire on Tongva and Serrano land. And I would like to thank, Stacy and Talani for your presentations. I think you guys, pretty much covered everything, and I learned a lot too. We're facing the same issues here in the IE, but I'll go ahead and just, in my presentation, I'm gonna just focus a little bit of what we have done here, in our region, fighting the industrialization of our communities. So Center for Community Action Environmental Justice, we've been around since the 70s, when our hills here were being used as a dumping ground for toxic waste from industrial companies from all over California. And it got to a point where the in a rainy season when those pits overflowed and fell and went into the community. And that's when moms and teachers started organizing, and they ended up creating the first Superfund site of the country. And yeah, so that's a little bit about CCAJ. So let's talk about what's going on in the Inland Empire. Right now, we are like the central warehouse capital of the country. We have approximately 1.4 billion square feet of warehousing that is on our lands, and 356 million that is being planned or has already been approved. Right now, that is equivalent to 956,000 truck trips, and future truck trips equaling 239,000. And you can see right there all the, the data on all the pollution that is being faced daily. For diesel particulate matter, it's about 1,300, and daily NOx 148,000, daily CO2 40,000, and that's just what exists right now. We see this number continuing to grow as more warehouses are being approved all over our region, and this huge culmination of warehousing could be seen even from space, just from how large it is. Right now, it's estimated that 40% of all goods come through our region, and the logistics industry employs 1 out of 8 workers in the Inland Empire since early 2021, and that's 2 years ago. Now I'm guessing that number has grown, but our region is right now is super dependent on the logistics industry. It's dependent on the economy is dependent on it. Our elected officials have made our region super dependent on the warehouse industry, and that's why it is where it's at right now. And we see this reflected in our air quality. The American Lung Association has us failing in all grades for high ozone days, for particle pollution, annual and 24-hour. And in 2022, San Bernardino and Riverside counties were ranked number 1 and number 2 respectively for worst counties in the US for ozone pollution. We have around 177 high ozone days every year. So that's and this is a direct result from the warehouse industry booming in the last 5 to 10 years. We actually we've always been an area heavily affected by pollution because of our geography. It's kind of like a bowl. And because of that, when pollution comes in from Los Angeles and the pollution that's created here, it all stays in our area because of the geography. And it's always been a problem. But since 1998, the air quality has been improving, and you can see it in charts. I didn't put the chart on here, but I could share that afterwards. But it has been improving, and around 2015, there started to be a boom in the warehouse industry. There was more warehouses being built, and it's reflected in the data. The chart slowly starts to edge upwards, and now we're at levels that we haven't seen in over 20 years for air quality. So as saying all of this, warehousing is the number 1 environmental justice issue in the Inland Empire. And I'm gonna talk a little bit. I'm not gonna go over everything that was already talked about, but I'm gonna just give some examples of what has been possible here through advocacy and through bringing community together. So using your voice, I think that's like it's central to everything that we do. It's using our voice, uplifting the voices of our communities in order to bring attention to these issues and force real legislation and action from our elected officials. An example of how using our voice or using the community using their voice resulted what that results in. So in 2021, city here in the IE, Fontana, approved a warehouse right next to a high school, like not even 10 feet away from a high school, despite increased like huge opposition from the community, protests, community comment, and they still approved it. And it wasn't a surprise, that city is known for prioritizing industrial development over anything else. Um, and even the mayor, her name is Alconeta Warren, and she's known, they call her Warehouse Warren because of how many warehouses she's approved in her time as a mayor. And and this, but despite the loss, and the and what had and the result of the vote, all the public outcry, and the public comments and everything that came out of this, um it prompted the California's Attorney General to file a lawsuit against the city. And this had never been done before, but right there you can see that the state, for the first time intervened in a local matter having to do with the warehouse issue. And this goes back to some of the topics that Stacy and Tolani talked about really taking advantage of all our networks, that we have in the state, and never thinking too big. Who would have thought that the Attorney General, the lawyer who represents California, would come into an issue like this, but it happened. And it happened because community came together and really decided to put forward their concerns and express what they felt about it and how they was going to impact them. And unfortunately, what this result, despite the lawsuit, our state doesn't have the best regulation for warehousing. So the Attorney General wasn't able to do what he wanted to do in this lawsuit, but he did force the city to draft a sustainability ordinance to address impacts from warehouse development. And I have that in quotation marks because that sustainability ordinance was like the minimum they could have done. And what the community wanted was a lot more. But, despite all this pressure, the years of organizing that the city, all the money they had to put out for the lawsuits, it created like an environment of how do you say it, like more accountability from from the city. And what happened was that in this year 2023, a developer bought area right next to the same high school that already had a warehouse next to it and wanted to build 3 more warehouses. And right away, the community started because the Attorney General problem became super huge and it blew up. We were able to get LA Times, ABC7, CBS, all these big news media sources started talking about this issue. So when it came out again that there was another warehouse project gonna be proposed, community organizations started reaching out to all the same reporters who had wrote about this before, letting them know that this was happening again. And we had maybe 3 or 4 articles come out the day before the vote, and we had a press conference, we had a protest in front of the city hall, and what resulted, at a surprise, because honestly, a lot of people had lost confidence in the city, but because of all the organizing that had been done, the city, for the first time ever, rejected a warehouse, 3 warehouses next to the high school, and this was a huge win for the community. And it only happened because of the people using their voice and using every avenue possible to organize, like Stacy and Tolani were talking about, really taking advantage of those networks, of the press, and keeping those, for future actions or anything like that. And this isn't an isolated, event in another city in the Inland Valley region, in the Inland Empire. Moreno Valley denied a huge project that was going to be next to a residential area, because there was a lot of lobbying attempts. There was a lot of community actions against the project. and they ended up denying it. It's also happened in New Hampshire, Hudson, New Hampshire. Amazon pulled out of a major development. They said it's because they have to reassess its business needs, but the reality is because the community came out against them, with like, super strong, to a point where they had no choice but to abandon that project. It's also happened in Churchill, Pennsylvania, where another company was proposing a warehouse. The community didn't want it. They organized. They came together. They advocated. They made public comments. They lobbied their officials, and they were able to stop this warehouse project. So a lot of, we have a huge sentiment that, these huge companies have too much money, that it's impossible to stop them, but it's definitely possible to stop them. It just takes a lot of organizing. It takes community involvement, engagement, and lobbying. It takes the press. All these factors come together, creates like a perfect campaign where it's possible to, protect your community from industrialization. Um, so like was said before, it's important to leverage relationships with public and elected officials and the press. There's a lot of ways to do that. There's lobbying. You go directly to the office, with community members, and, talk about like why you don't want the project, the impacts that it's gonna have in your community. There's also something that we have here, called toxic tours. I don't know if that's something that y'all do in New Jersey, but basically in the toxic tours, we bring out elected officials and show them what's going on in the community, um, and like areas that are being highly affected by warehousing and yeah, so just, you know maybe some of these people have never visited these parts where these warehouses are being proposed and don't know how close homes are to them. But through like through the toxic tours, they're able to like really experience it firsthand what community is experiencing. There's also, community events, town halls, where there's the opportunity for people to question elected officials, ask them what they're doing for the community. And creating those relationships with elected officials leads to, legislation being proposed by them and being authored by them. Like our assembly member here, one of our assembly members in the area, Eloise Gomez Reyes, she has been working strongly with the community for several years, advocating for legislation to protect communities from warehouse development, which included a buffer bill that created a buffer between residential areas and industrial areas.
Hello, are you there, Joaquin? Can everybody hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay. Not sure what happened. Um, Maybe it's his network. Um, all right. Let's just continue. I'm going to pick up where I left off in my presentation. So let me share my screen. Yeah, I'm at the tail end here of the presentation here, and I do want to leave at least 10 minutes for questions from the participants. Again, I thank you for your time. and patience throughout this training. And I just want to, cover this material here, which is, kind of the whole purpose, ties in the whole purpose of the training as well. Essentially what we will do with that information, and, that obviously will lead us to, voting, being that we have an election coming up. So I really just wanted to emphasize the importance of being a responsible voter. So after attending the public meetings and meeting with your legislators, building that relationship, now, the next part of this is really strategizing on how and who you will vote for that is aligned with the issues you care about. And in this case, it would be warehouse development.
Tolani, Joaquin is back. I don't know if he wants to finish his presentation or.
Oh, okay. Hey, Joe Quinn.
Hey, I'm so sorry. I didn't even realize that I had lost connection for like, I don't know. I don't know
Yeah.
what, at what point, you guys stopped hearing me. But what, do you remember like where I was at?
Um, I really don't. Does anybody in the audience
You had
remember?
just talked about the buffer bill and the assembly member, the local assembly member, I can't remember her name, but that's the slide that you were on.
Okay, yeah, if you like, I could finish up, or I only had a couple slides left.
Okay, yeah, no problem. I stopped sharing. Let me make you co-host. Hold on.
Can you see my screen?
Can everybody see?
Yes.
Okay.
All right, sorry about that, everybody. I'll wrap up real quick. Yeah, so the creating these relationships with public elected officials, it helps when we're bringing up legislation or any type of regulation to protect our communities. And I was giving the example of Eloise Reyes, and her bill, and what we were able to do with that. So, some of the bills or some of the rules that we've been able to pass here in California, through like getting the support from legislatures and lobbying like these agencies, is the warehouse indirect source rule, that it held warehouses accountable greater than 100,000 feet to reduce NOx and diesel particulate matter. And also the California Advanced Clean Truck Rule, that it requires all sales of new trucks to be zero emission by 2040. So voting, it's, as we all know, probably it's important to vote and, know who we're voting for. And some of the examples that of how we try to engage, the community more and what's going on, is something called the AJ scorecard that we do with a statewide alliance, called California Environmental Justice Alliance. And this scorecard includes everything from bills to legislatures, and it kind of just it measures what they've done throughout the year on environmental justice issues, and it also measures bills on how effective they are in addressing issues. And this scorecard, kind of it adds, another layer of pressure to these elected officials, because it shows like where, what they're voting for and how they're voting for things. Um, and another way that, to really know who you're voting for is a town hall. Like for example, this one right here is a county supervisor town hall. And these, like, especially when it's organized by the community and for the community, where people are able to ask questions, to these elected officials of about what they're doing to well, what they're doing to address the issues that are most important, and how they're voting and stuff like that. But yeah, this is just another example. And what is the key to everything we talk about, and what we try to do. The key to everything is community. Bringing your community together, your city, your county, bringing them together to advocate for change is what really drives this movement. Right here, we had a march parade slash thing last year in a community in Bloomington, where we brought a lot of people together to really demonstrate, the opposition towards like their industrialization of the community, and also uplift like the culture and stuff. So, creating like that bond throughout the community where, everyone is kind of on board with this, and like buying into this movement, and understanding why this is happening, and why they should be involved. It's the key to everything. So yeah, I hope, I shared some things of importance, but if y'all have any questions, let me know. Or this is if I don't know if I have any time for questions, but yeah, go ahead.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, feel free, anyone, you can unmute yourself if you want to just ask the question directly, or you can post in the chat, or if you're viewing on Facebook, you can also post a question there as well. So at this time it is 8:20. And we are starting our question and answer session now. So any questions for our speaker? Go ahead, go for it. Um, any questions? Again, you can unmute yourself if you want to ask the question directly.
So
You
I
can post
I,
in
I
the
got a
chat.
question from iPhone MJ. They said, how can we make officials accountable for enforcement of laws and ordinances? Laws, bills, and ordinances are created, which is a great win, but how do we demand enforcement? So, I think it's, kind of in the same vein of what we've been talking about. It's using those networks, to put pressure on elected officials, or like our city, county, state, like going to the press, and letting them know what's going on, and have them write stories or write articles about these elected officials, to force them, to take action. This is something like I've heard stories of what CCAJ has done in the past. They when they were fighting against the toxic pits, they had a huge like award thing, that said number one polluter, and they would go drop those off at the offices, or at the houses of these people who weren't doing what they had to do, to protect the communities. And those type of things will end up being on, in the media, and they didn't, these elected officials didn't want that kind of press. They didn't want to be labeled as the number one polluter. But those are ways to hold them accountable. And like for example, with also with the warehouse indirect source rule that I was just talking about, almost 50% of warehouses were out of compliance this year with that rule. And right away, you know, lots of organizations in the state started sending in, started writing op-eds, started bringing in the press, you know, and just bringing this out to light. So, you know, I think just bringing any type of issue like that into the light, you know, and showing what these elected officials are doing, is a great way to like demand enforcement, you know, and also showing up to the
Definitely.
meetings. Yeah.
They don't like having a bad image. They will react to that very quickly. So, gotta catch them off guard.
Amy has her hand up. Go ahead, Amy.
Yeah, hi, Joaquin. I'm Amy Goldsmith. I'm the state director here at Clean Water Action, and we've been working. I'm also part of the Moving Forward Network, so we've been following your work, you know, as part of the network, and I'm also with the Coalition for Healthy Ports here on the East Coast. So we're, you know, as you probably know from talking to Tolani, we're very interested in getting an indirect source review, and the commissioners, the DEP commissioner here has made a commitment, or at least indicated that he wants to get the advanced clean fleet rule adopted here in New Jersey, which you've just adopted in California. And I was just wondering, how was the indirect source review all through CARB, you know, the California Air Resources Board, or was there legislation passed? We feel like we need to do legislation in order to sort of force the DEP to do it, because they're not really inclined to do it without being forced. So I was just wondering how, you know, how you got it to happen. And then, you know, was it the legislature? You know, we just talked to the EPA administrator here and trying to get her to step up and do some things, but I was just wondering how it got to be in California.
So the clean fleets rule that was with the California Air Resources Board, so the state agency on air quality,
Mhm.
and the warehouse indirect source rule was with the Southern California Agency for Air Quality. They're called the South Coast Air Quality Management District. So that's kind of a little bit more regional compared to CARB.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
from what I know, these rules came out of like the promises already made by the state on climate and like GHG goals. So citing back on those, you know, and then seeing this warehouse issue, it was pretty much like a, you know, if you want to really achieve these goals, then we need to do something to curb like all this pollution from these warehouses. And it took a lot of like lobbying and a huge coalition of organizations to put that pressure on the California Air Quality Management District to pass the warehouse ISR. But yeah, it just came out of like, you know, trying to like the state already has these, or California already had these goals, you know, to reach these climate initiatives, but they weren't doing anything, you know. So the community, you know, proposed the warehouse indirect source rule, and you know that, you know, it took a few years, but it was finally able to pass. And I think right now there's also a rail yard ISR that's in the works right now. It's in litigation because the rail yards feel like, you know, the agency shouldn't have the power to regulate them because they're federal or whatever. But yeah, there's a lot of like hoops that they try to jump through, but you know, in the end, it's really about like the representation from like the community that pushes forward like these initiatives, the movement, you know, and the lobbying that happens.
Yes, thank you for that answer. Um, does anyone else have any additional questions? We're at the 4-minute mark here. Um, please feel free to unmute yourself or just post it in the chat. Going once, going twice. All right. Yeah, I'm just gonna wrap it up here. Here, let me share my screen one last time. So once again, thank you all for attending this training. Here's the contact information for myself.
It's not up there yet. There you go.
Can you see now? You can see it?
Yep. Mhm.
Okay. All right. Yeah, so again, thank you for attending this training. Here's the contact information for myself and our wonderful speakers we had here today. And if you already don't, please follow Clean Water Action New Jersey social media. And we always want to leave a training on a good note, which consists of taking action. So, and here are some different ways you can do that as it relates to the warehouse campaign that I am leading here at Clean Water Action. One, you can become a Clean Water Action member today. Very easy to sign up. You get email, notifications of events or initiatives to take on. There is a ongoing warehouse petition in opposition of the Upper Freehill Township warehouse project, which is the latest warehouse fight that I have been focused on. So please feel free to sign this petition. And most importantly, apply this information that you learned today. In a follow-up email, you will get the all the material that was mentioned today and presented to you will be accessible to you for your reference. And thank you once more for joining today, and let's continue fighting against these warehouse development projects that are impacting our health and our well-being and the environment. And I'm gonna stop sharing. All right. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks,
Have a
Tolani.
good night. Yep. Bye-bye.